So we got some friendly. All right. So, well, let's go ahead and get started today. Again, I want to value your time. Again, my name is Brent Kelly. I'm the president of the Sipkins Group. Welcome to our workshop on how to transform your agency's future. And I think this is an important point without losing your sanity. I'm curious, how many here have ever maybe felt like this nice young lady here at some point this week already, where you're just like, my gosh, I'm going to lose it, right? We've all had those experiences. And so we're going to talk about transformation today in different ways, but really how to help your agency do this without overly complicating things. I'm always looking for feedback, and I've asked this is actually the third workshop I've done this summer live with attendees. And I've asked this question at least on one other workshop, but I want to ask it again. And this is the question right now for you as an agency leader. And I know we got agency leaders. Some of you are agency principals. Some of you may be sales leaders. We probably have some producers on this. We've got a mixed variety of people with different roles and responsibilities. But I'm always curious, when you think of frustrations for your agency, and I'm sure there's more than one, right? I talk to agencies and agency leaders all the time. What's your biggest frustration or challenge right now? Here we are sitting in August of 2021. We're just past half of this year already. We're getting, in the third quarter here, already chugging into the fourth quarter. It's going to be here before you know it. But if you could type in the chat box, I'm just curious to get some feedback from all the participants here today, the attendees. We've got some that are going to be watching this recorded, but for those of you on here live, what's your biggest challenge or frustration right now as an agency leader? So just give you a little time to think about that and then type it in the chat box. There are no wrong answers to this question. It's whatever is on your heart and in your mind. And like I said, this will be interactive today, so I always want to get some of your feedback. By the way, as you're writing this down, make sure you have a pen and paper handy. I'm going to be asking you to take some notes or make a note of this. Or again, you're going to have some nugget that I think will be very valuable to you and your agency and the agency's future. So here's some feedbacks I'm getting. Mark said interruptions. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit today. What does that mean? Never have enough time. Finding good employees as we're growing. That's a huge one, Ronnie, right? Always finding great talent. Tim, a really common one, not enough in the pipeline, right? We always want to have more things in the pipeline. Absolutely. Lack of time. That's the second time we've heard that one. And motivated employees. Bill, you said employees, finding young talent, spending so much time working in the business that I can't work on the business. Yeah, we'll talk about that in concepts today as well. Keith, you said people owning their success. Ooh, love that phrase. Also a huge challenge. How do we get our team members to own their success? And by the way, I don't have the ego to say that I can, change and transform your agency in 1 hour today, right? That's not the goal, but I do want to share some ideas and thoughts and concepts that you really can begin your transformation journey, whatever that specific area is for you. Dan, you said getting everyone to be a team player every Tuesday. I do a meeting, and it seems after the meeting, we are good for 2 days, and then we go back to our old ways, right? We'll talk a little bit about that idea today as well. So again, excited to get started with you today, and it's going to be again about a transformation. This is a term that we use quite often at Sipkins because it's powerful and it's real. I will say this, I'm going to make a big claim. If you really buy in, and again, some of you do work with us right now. Some of you have not worked with us. Some of you are familiar with Sipkins. Some of you are not familiar with Sipkins. So we've got a variety here of attendees. But we speak a lot about transformation. I can tell you if you really understand the concept of transformation, which is moving from some place, wherever you are, to where you really want to go. But if you really understand what I'm going to be talking about today and begin to buy in and execute on some of these things, I can tell you this can be some of the most valuable 45 minutes that you're going to spend. Certainly this week and beyond, and hopefully weeks after that, because it really is about these ideas of right now, do you have a lack of clarity in your agency to some degree? We want to move from some of the confusion to clarity, right? That's an aspect of transformation. What about inconsistency? And some of you mentioned that in your frustrations, right? People get started, then they stop. Can we move from some of the chaos or the inconsistencies to more consistency? And what about complacency? Does anybody ever have a situation where you feel your agency team, whether it's leadership team, producer, service team, whoever, say, it's not so bad. We're pretty good, right? And there's a level of complacency. So if we can help move you from complacency to a true commitment, it's a game changer. See, transformation is ultimately about, again, moving from some area, the good, the bad, the ugly, to a place that you truly desire to be. One of the things that we talk often at Sipkins about. And this is just integrated in our hearts and our souls and our minds, is this idea of what is the best version possible of your agency. Now, some of you may have heard that before. For some of you, maybe it's the first time you've heard that phrase, but I want you to think about your agency right now. And I want you to think about what it could, should, however term you want to use, but would look like if you would remove some of the barriers, the obstacles, the frustrations, the conflict, the head trash, you name it. Your agency performing at the highest level. What would the culture look like? What would the client relationships look like? What would the accountability look like? What would the financial freedom look like? Right? All those things to factor. And I'm going to share some ideas. And my guess is when I say something today, there's going to be something that's going to trigger maybe something more specific in your agency. So we're going to be talking about transformation and, more importantly, how to begin to remove some of the traps. In fact, today, and if you want to make a note on your sheet, there are going to be 3 traps I'm going to talk about that agencies deal with that we see. And again, are there more than 3 traps? Well, of course, but I want to do 3 types of traps that I'm guessing as I go through this. In fact, I won't even guess. I know as I go through this today, you're going to say, yeah, I've kind of see my agency in this way. Or maybe there's a better way that we could do things. So I'm going to identify these 3 traps for you today and how you can begin to move forward to break free of some of these traps. Really what it's about and what we love to do at Sipkins. And by the way, our mission, our purpose at Sipkins is to help agencies just like you to sell more, retain more, and earn more than you ever thought possible, ultimately leading you to your best version possible. So to sell more, retain more, and earn more. And to do that, the idea is we got to understand, where am I today? Where do I want to go? All this craziness in the middle that you see here, how do we help you compress time? Because think about it. Time is our only diminishing asset. In fact, you may want to write that down if you haven't heard that before. Time is our only diminishing asset. You can get back money, you can get back stuff. In some cases, you can build back relationships, but you never, ever get back your time. So we want to help you and think about ways of how you can compress your time. Now, we've been doing this for a while. I had to share this picture. In fact, I've never shared this picture at any workshop before. And some of you are like, I have no idea who this guy is or why it's relevant. Well, we are the Sipkins group. I see some of you kind of smiling. This is our CEO and founder, Roger Sipkins. In fact, he's on the call here today listening in. And we at Sipkins have been doing this, working with independent insurance agencies for about 40 years. Right? We've been doing this for a long time. And this is Roger back in 1986, doing one of his dynamic trainings. But I mentioned we have a passion for this. We know what we're talking about because we have worked with, over the years, thousands of agencies, right? We understand the things that work, and we continue that process moving forward. Obviously, the last 18 months have been very interesting for all of us, right? With what's going on, just like you had to pivot, we had to pivot and began to do things more digitally like we're doing now. And of course, you can see using a green screen and being able to communicate and having conversations. We love in-person stuff, but guess what? We can do the virtual things at a very high level as well. In fact, I was looking at some of my notes. We've ran 76 training programs in the last 18 months. And our average rating, we get feedback in all of our programs, is 9.1. We know what we're doing and we love to help agencies. That's our mission. I know that's not about us, but the key is, what does it do for you as an agency leader? And this idea is this is what it goes back to, is trial and error take too long. In fact, write that down. Trial and error takes too long and it's too expensive, right? Trial and error takes too long and it's too expensive. And listen, we all learn from our mistakes. I'm raising my own hand here. I've probably already made 3 mistakes today, at least, right? My team could probably say it's more than that, right? But I've already made mistakes today. We always learn from our mistakes, but think about it. Would you rather learn from mistakes on your own all the time or learn from mistakes of others, right? People that have been places maybe you haven't been to, right? Or done things you haven't done yet, to say, you know what? 5 years ago, I did this and it was stupid. Okay. Or I shouldn't have done that. I learned a better way to save you time, right? Trial and error works, but it takes a really long time and it's really, really expensive. One of my favorite quotes comes from the book, The Road Less Stupid. And this is something to think about before I get into these traps in a minute, is this. Sometimes do you feel like you're running the wrong direction enthusiastically, right? Just like this guy here, you're on this track, right? And you're running as an agency leader of some kind, and you're fired up and you know, I'm going to do the work today. And you realize you get to the end of the race, or at least that segment of the race, and you go, I don't really know why I went here. I don't know if this was the right direction. So you've heard the phrase about working hard or working smart. Well, I think you need to do both. And I'm gonna get you to think about some of those ways today. Here's a key concept. If you want to do better as an agency leader, if you want to transform without losing your sanity, as I'm going to be talking about and sharing with you some ideas today, if you want that, if you want your agency to get better, you and your team have to get better. Now, you might be thinking, really? That's it? Yeah, think about this again. If you want your agency to get better, you as an agency leader and your agency team have to get better. And I think sometimes it's missed out. In fact, I want to share with you, this is really interesting. We're looking at some studies, best practices in the insurance industry. Get this, that the best practices shows that 0.4% of agencies' revenue is spent on team development. 0.4%. Now, if you look at other professional service industries, they're around 2%. Again, still seems like a small number, but compared to 0.4%, it's a game changer. And oftentimes agencies are like, well, I don't know why we're not getting the traction that we really want. Well, part of that is you can't just say, I want to get better numbers. I just want to have better organic growth. I want to have higher retention, whatever that may be. I want to have a better culture. We have to commit individually as leaders and also with our team that we are going to develop. We are going to grow through this process. And here's the last thing before I get into the 3 traps that I want to talk about today. This is my call to you, right? We've been on here for about 10 minutes together, but I want to set the stage for this. And obviously you see the thinker here behind me, but I want to challenge you today to really think. I want you to think about your agency today. I want to think about where you really want your agency to go in the future. And of course, the last question on clarity is, how are you going to get there? Right? Something we heard from Andy Stanley, a great leadership and a pastor, a leadership expert and a pastor, said this: does your current direction match your desired destination? In fact, I'm going to ask you to write that down. Write that down and ask yourself, does my current direction or does our current direction match our desired destination? So people often say, well, I really desire to be here. Whatever that, either it's a number or a certain metric that you want to look at. But my current direction and what I've done the last 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 6 months does not match that destination. I ask you, does yours? Maybe it does, but for many times we see that it doesn't. I'm also going to ask you to do this for the next 30 minutes or so. Turn off your cell phone, turn off your email client, and just think. Because I will tell you, one of the things I'll talk about today is distractions. I know for many of us, like, well, I'm going to multitask. Listen, I want you just to focus on my message today, but more importantly, on your specific agency. What does it mean? So let's go through these 3 traps. And again, if you got your pen and paper handy down, you can write each of these down as we go. Here's the first trap that we see with agencies. This is where agencies run into. I just talked about agency development. This is a big part of it, is that agencies' number 1 trap is this. They try to improve their agency by addressing one small part of the agency. They try to improve the agency, and it could be a number of categories, by improving or directing their attention on one small part. Basically, it's part versus whole, right? If we can just help this department, or if we can just talk to this team, if we could just talk to this person and help this person get better, our agency will get better. Well, by the way, does that work to a degree? Yeah, at a small scale, it does. But here's something I can share with you. And we see this all the time. Now, pictures behind me here, these are both our virtual producer camp and our in-person producer camp that we run. And I will tell you, we're very, very proud of the producer camps we run. Some of you have gone through it. I can see the names that have been through our producer camp in the past, and we get great feedback from it. What's always interesting in the producer camp is that if you have a producer that goes to our camp and they are just on fire, they are totally committed to getting better and growing, they're going to do it regardless of their environment around, they're going to do it, which is great. But what's frustrating for many producers, what we see, and this is just one example of part versus whole, is that may go to a producer camp that we run and they go, these strategies make sense. This mindset makes sense. These behaviors make sense. But then they get back to their agency and their service team is like, I don't know. I don't get it. The leadership's like, well, I don't really care. Do what you want. And there's a frustration with it. And so what I want to get across to as an agency is, Are you committing time and energy to one person or one segment, or are you starting to communicate as a team of what it really means to be successful? And I'm going to give some examples of this and help you think through this and this notion of part versus whole. Now, I got a picture behind me. Most of you, I think probably all of you, I shouldn't say all, but I would guess most of you for sure know who this guy is here. Again, if you're a basketball fan at all, even if you're not, this guy would be known as my opinion, the best basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan. I grew up in the Chicagoland area or outside of Chicago as a kid in the 1990s, which is a pretty good spot because the Bulls were really, really good. But I will tell you, as a young kid, when Michael Jordan got drafted and he began playing with the Bulls in the mid to late 80s, he was out there, winning scoring titles, winning defensive player of the year, most valuable player, all these kind of personal accolades. But he would get to the playoffs and they would play these Detroit Pistons or someone else, the Detroit Pistons in particular. And they would say, listen, all we have to do is shut down Michael. He's the one guy on the team. He's their best player. We just shut him down, we win. And guess what? They were right. They did. And the Bulls transition. Now, there are a lot of factors to this. They had a couple different title runs, but they hired a new coach, right? To think bigger and think things differently. They began to surround Michael Jordan with other players that bought into the commitment. And Michael Jordan had to buy into some of the new philosophies. It wasn't just about him anymore, but there became a team concept. So I want you to think about this for your agency. Are there certain people on your team that are your superstars, but the rest of the team is not bought in? Because I can tell you it's an uphill battle. One of my favorite examples of this is an agency that I had the pleasure and honor to work with. They're in the Southeast or in South Carolina, Atlantic Shield Insurance. And you can see behind me here, this is an excerpt from Rough Notes magazine that were featured about a year ago on Rough Notes magazine. And an agency that came to us and began their process working with us, already having some levels of success. Right. The great thing about this business is, again, that, you can work really hard and be successful, but the issue that they were having is, and right, hopefully I'll point to it right there. This is Hill Shaw, and this is there, and this is Eric Loesch. These are two of the owners of Atlantic Shield Insurance. Great guys, worked their tail off, right, and put their nose to the grindstone and had some success and built a nice agency. But they got to a point where they said, wait a sec, we can't do this alone. Just because we're fired up and passionate doesn't mean we can just magically make everyone else be fired up and passionate. Again, they've done a great job of developing their people. They've done a great job of finding people. But one of the things that we help them with and show them with, and this is something I want you to think about, is how do we get everyone on the same page? How do we get everyone on the same page? And one of our philosophies and concepts is this, is that here's the idea. If you want to get your entire team, and this is worth writing down, if you want to get your entire team on the same page, we're thinking strategically, we're thinking aligned. If we want to get our entire team on the same page, we should probably have our business plan summary on one page. And they began to put together a one-page business plan that we helped them create that talks about what is the true mission of the agency? Why do we do what we do? Why should anybody else care? The vision, where are we really going? Because guess what? Your team wants to know where you're going. They want to go someplace, not just do something every day. I think that's missed with agency culture. Or that we have, and back to my part versus whole, is that, well, the producers seem to get all this stuff, but what about us, the service team, or vice versa, right? Whatever the case may be, is we've got to have this one-page type of business plan summary that we get common language, common culture, common buy-in for the success that we're trying to have. And the other part is this goes along with what I just said. And this is definitely worth writing down. We've got to have the same goal, but different roles on our agency. Same goal, different roles. Alignment and vision on different things. In fact, what is the goal? Well, the goal in essence should be to retain and obtain ideal clients. But do we have the same goal together? I reference sports a lot because I played sports. I love them. And there's some great analogies in sports. But think about a professional football team or any football team. Now that we're kind of getting into football season, whether you like football or not, here's the idea, is that when the season starts, do they not have the same goal? Win the championship, right? When we're on the field together, do we have the same goal to score a touchdown? Of course. But do we have different roles to do that? One person throws the ball, one person catches it, one person blocks, whatever the case may be. But the same is true with the agency. But to do that, we've got to have a common vision. And I can tell you what often happens is we have factions, right? Our agencies get broken up. And in fact, there's some animosity that builds versus talking to the entire agency about this is who we are and what we stand for. The bottom line is this. Is your agency right now today, are you rowing together? Are you aligned with the same goal, but different roles? And if not, again, these are things I want you to think about. What are some areas to consider? In our programs that we run, this is probably, it's a good example here. There's 4 people in this boat. Let's just say we've got an agency leader, a sales manager, our producer team, and our service team. I don't care what order they're sitting in. It doesn't matter. They're all important to the success of the agency. We've got a leader, we've got a sales leader, we've got an agency leader, a service team, and a producer. Again, whatever order they're sitting in. Just imagine with this boat, if the service team or the leadership sticks their oar in the water and doesn't move, or starts to row the opposite direction. What does that mean for the agency? And I will tell you, the challenge is most agencies, in many cases, that they're not aware of it and honest with themselves, have people rowing in different directions, or some people not rowing at all. And we wonder why we're not getting the success that we want, because we haven't been clear on common language, common culture, common vision. So it's something I want you to think about, because it's a huge trap when I talk to agencies all the time. The same is true of my own family. I don't like to show off my family because, hey, that's my family. Who doesn't like to show pictures of their family, right? But this is my amazing family, my wife of 18 years, and I've got 5 incredible kiddos. We're kind of like our own small business. But I use this because an example of it's the same thing true in families as it is in business, is that if we don't align with common goals, we are going to be fighting an uphill battle. If we don't proactively schedule our week together, we're going to be living hysterically. And here's something else to write down. And this is something to think about for yourself and your agency. Are you spending more of your time preparing or repairing right now? Because you have 2 choices, truthfully. And this with the agencies, you either prepare, we're going to do some of the work ahead of time. We're going to have some of the conversations that need to be had. We are going to proactively talk about some strategies together, whatever it may be, right? In my family, we're going to talk about who's going where that weekend, where we're spending the money. I mean, it could be a number of things. Or are you spending more time repairing? Which is, we probably should have brought that up. Now we got a mad client. Now I've got a mad employee, right? Whatever the case may be, you either have 2 choices. You prepare or you repair. Another example to share with you, because at the end of the day, it's about putting our hands together. And again, I'm beating this point up, but it's important. I want you just to really think about this with your agency. This is an agency we work with in the south part of the country a few years ago, had great success. This is their entire leadership team coming together from different departments. There's the Roger Sipkins. He always loves when I say that, but Roger Sipkins, their CEO, and they're leading the huddle in this particular instance. And in this case, I just want to give an example of what happens when you come together. This is an agency that was very fragmented in different ways. And we came together and we talked about, let's identify one key area to focus on, right? To come together on one key goal. And this agency talked about, let's focus on our top 20% of clients and let's go out and develop deeper relationships with them and truly earn and get referrals. That was it. Let's find one thing and rally together and make it the focus. And this is a really cool success story. This is an agency about $10 million in revenue. So it's a pretty good size agency. Just put the numbers here in your mind. $10 million in revenue. They were at 3% organic growth. And in 9 months, and a big part of this was holistically saying, we are going to do this together. In 9 months, they tripled organic growth to 9%. 9 months. Now, there were other factors, but the biggest factor of this is we're finally going to align. We're going to call a play, put our hands in the middle, and we're going to run it together, which leads right into the second part of the trap, because this is the first stage. These all go together. The first part is part versus whole. The second is this huge trap that we see with agencies. And this, the best way I can phrase this comes from the great John Maxwell, leadership expert and author. Many of you have heard of John Maxwell, but John Maxwell says this: we, and this is we as in business leaders, I'll say, and I'll say this for agency leaders, but we vastly overestimate the power of an event, and we vastly underestimate the power of process. We vastly overestimate the power, or I would say the importance of an event, and we vastly underestimate the power of a process. And listen, I love events. I go to events, I lead some events. Events can be great for catalysts for change. This is an event. I would love this to be a catalyst for change. But this doesn't necessarily create change. Have you ever been to an event of some kind and you got really, really excited and then you came home and you don't remember why? Right? I've been there. Yeah, that was great. What are you going to do? I don't know, but I feel great. Right? No, like there's got to be a process that we need to go through. And here's why most agencies struggle with processes. And this is true for all of us. This is a human condition that we live in. The best agencies have something in common. Again, I get the opportunity to work with a lot of agencies, talk to a lot of agency leaders, and I always try to find things, clues, right? Success leaves clues. One of the things that agencies have is unwavering focus. The best agencies are focused on the prize, whatever that is for them, right? But they have unwavering focus. I believe one of the biggest inhibitors for agency success, professional success, in whatever your specific role is one word. They want to write this down. The number one thing that causes agencies to stub their toe, distractions. Distractions. Now, we have distractions externally, right? And we also create our own distractions in our own mind because we can't stay focused, right? We go to the next thing, the next shiny object. Listen, I get guilty of this as well. But one of the biggest things we see with agency leaders is there's always a new thing. It's the next thing. You know, we started this and that was okay. And now we're going to go start this because this is going to be even better. And now we're going to start this because this is going to be better. And guess what happens to your agency team after a period of time? Do they believe you as an agency leader when you have a new idea? No, because you're never going to follow through on it. And here's what they say. Every time as an agency leader, you're like, well, I got a new idea this week or this month. They wait for you to leave the room, right? You leave the room. You're like, okay, I got that new idea. That's going to be great, right? And then the agency team sits around, whether there's 3 of them or 30 of them or 300 of them, I don't care the number. And they look at each other and they go, don't worry, this too shall pass. And then they go back to do whatever they've done before, right? Because we don't have focus. We are always inundated with the clicks, the rings, the pings, the dings, you name it. We have interruptions all over the place. In fact, my guess is that some of you have already had interruptions in the first 30 minutes of this workshop today to some degree. Something ding and pinged at you, right? Or buzzed. Right? It's true. I get it. We've got to have focus. And here's something that'll be really alarming probably to many of you. It's really interesting. Studies have shown that when people go to an event and they learn something, that 84% of that is forgotten after 90 days. So think about that. The time, the commitment, the energy, the money that you spend in some cases to send someone or be part of an event. And within 90 days, all of it's gone, or at least most of it, right? 84% forgotten after 90 days. Here's the key. And I want you to think about this in your agency. The key to this is that you've got to have something called compounding consistency. This isn't sexy. This isn't exciting. This isn't some magic pill. Oh, but I'm telling you, does this require discipline? Yeah, to a degree it does. But there is nothing more powerful than compounding consistency. That we are going to stay focused, unwavering focus for a period of time to actually get the transformation we seek versus getting bored, getting tired, getting frustrated, and moving on to the next thing, right? Because here's something to think about. Another writer downer for you. There are always more great ideas than there is time or capacity to implement them. Would you agree with that? There are always more great ideas than there is time or capacity to implement them. And this is true not only in business, this is true in life. This will probably ring true. This rings true for me a little bit. Think about exercise equipment. If you want to get physically fit, right? And many of us like, well, I'm physically fit. I'm going to go out and get that treadmill or that piece of weight equipment or whatever that new gadget is, right? And we go get that thing. And after a few days, we're like, man, not only did I get the thing, but I have to use that thing. And I got to use that thing a lot. And I don't want to use that thing anymore. So it's going to become someplace where I hang my clothes. But that's okay because I'm going to go get the next thing. And that's going to fix my problem, right? Here's something to think about. Does your agency right now have a consistent strategic process, or is it the gimmick of the month? Does my agency have a clear, consistent process, or is it a gimmick of the month? Now, some of you do have that, some of you don't, but it's something to think about in working with agencies, because at the end of the day, we all have to look at ourselves in the mirror and saying, wait a second, did I stay committed to the things that I should have done? Right? Because did I get distracted by the next thing? We lose focus, we lose energy, but at the end of the day, all progress, and this comes from Dan Sullivan, all progress starts by telling the truth. All progress starts by telling the truth. One of the things that we tell people in our programs all the time, and I'll tell you right now, is this: don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. I've done it. It's okay. It's not that bad. It's going to be better, right? But here's the thing. There's a difference between a consistent process that you are committed to and hope. I hope next year is better. I hope next month is better. I hope this relationship improves. In fact, there's a great drug out there that's sweeping the insurance agency landscape. You know what it is? It's called hopium, right? I hope that things get better, right? Hopium. Some of you laugh. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. But yeah, there's hopium, but there isn't a clear plan. So here's something to think about and consider. How deep are you going and willing to go in specific areas of your agency today? And we love at Sipkins to use visuals and analogies. And one of these is an iceberg. And most of you know this, but if not, an iceberg, 90% of it is below the waterline, right? You can't see it. It's hidden. Only 10% is above the waterline. And this is the kind of stuff that people see and we talk about and we think it's a big deal, but the truth is down here. It's deep. In fact, DEEP is an acronym. I want to write this one down. We love acronyms. I'm only going to give you a couple today. This is one of them. DEEP, delivering excellence in every process. How deep are you willing to go in certain areas? Now, can you do everything at once? Not at all. But we find with the best agencies, they find one specific area over a period of time and they go deep in it. It could be a number of things. It could be pipeline development. It could be positioning or how they identify their points of differentiation or selling process. It could be something like going deep in your high performance teams, which is something we teach at Sipkins, that we've got our sales and service team working together. Well, why do we do that? Well, high performance teams allow producers to go produce. We'll often see producers like, well, I'd be better if I could get out there and actually sell more often. Well, how often are you selling? Well, I don't know, a few hours a week. Well, your job is to produce. But we talk about things, we talk about pipelines, we talk about production, but we never actually address them and go deep, and we kind of push them aside. We'll get to that later. And then we come back 6 months and talk about it again. It's kind of that trial and error that I was talking about. Here's a question to ask you on producer productivity, just for your agency. Right now, to your producers, whether you have 1 or 100, how many of your producers are spending 80% of their week in sales and sales-related activities? We call this at Sipkins the green zone. There's the green zone and the red zone. The green zone is selling time. It's sales stuff. Red zone is all the other junk, admin, emails, distractions, looking at Facebook. I don't know what it is, right? But are we spending the majority of our time? That's one area that we can spend the agency go, let's just go deep and get this right. We've seen agencies that have just gotten the time spent selling for producers, just that focus, a producer's schedule, alignment with sales and service, making sure we have the same goal, different roles. We've seen agencies have a 25% increase in production just by doing one thing really, really well. But we don't, because we get distracted. Here's another example to share with you. It's one of my favorite stories and examples to share. This is an example of going deep in a pipeline. So this is another agency on the East Coast that we've had the pleasure to work with. Fantastic agency. And you're like, what is this thing behind me? These are 3x5 index cards on a big cork board. So one of the areas that we talk with agencies about, and I'll consider your agency, is how deep are we really going in pipeline development, right? A lot of agencies talk about pipelines. Yeah, we need more. In fact, that was one of the frustrations I heard earlier, right? We need bigger pipelines. Let's talk, how are we going to do it? Well, we're going to have more pipelines. Okay, well, what are you specifically going to do? So here's just one example. This agency, one of the things we help them with is let's target and identify a future 100 client list. Let's have your producers come up with certain names of businesses. In this case, they did more businesses and employee benefits, but it could be a number of things. But let's have your agencies come up with a true future ideal client list. Let's create an actual targeted account strategy plan for each one of them. Not just a name in a CRM, but an actual targeted strategy plan around them. And by the way, let's make it visual and make it real and make it really easy, because this agency, by the way, is a very good size agency, right? Also around a $10 million size agency. So they have technology, they have resources, but here's the point. Let's just put a cork board and make it visual. So as you can see, they have all these names behind me here, and you'll see these stars that are on here. Well, what do those stars represent? Well, what they did was each star represented a part of the process. We had an initial conversation. We had a first appointment. We had a presentation of solutions, or we closed the sale, or we wrote the account. And then once you wrote the account, we're going to move it to the success board. But what's interesting about this is, why does something like this work? Well, number one is when you do this, it becomes real. Also, it's very visual. People respond to visual. It's also very simple. It also keeps people accountable. It also tells you that we are committed to this. This isn't just, hey, guys, gals, this week we're going to talk about pipelines. It's for the next X amount of days, 90 days, 100 days, we are going to be focused on pipeline development. And then we're going to rinse and repeat that. So again, this is an example of going deep in an area. Is your agency willing to go deep in certain areas? So here's the bottom line of all of this that I'm talking about on the second trap, is that if you want to get excited, pumped up, feel good, which is okay, I like that. Hopefully this will help you get pumped up maybe a little bit. Then if that's what you want, go to an event, take some notes, go to an event and go, all right, let's go. But if you truly want transformation in your agency, you need to engage in some form of consistent process, right? There's a difference. So trap number 2 is your agency taking part in events, or have you committed to a process? Which leads to trap number 3. So I've talked about part versus whole, right? Of your agency. Are we working with part of the agency, or are we communicating to the entire agency? Mistake number 2, or trap number 2, is this idea of an event versus process. Trap number 3 is this. It's a trap of trying to go alone versus going together. Agencies try to go out alone versus going together. What do I mean by that? Well, listen, I know all of you that are on this call, you have resources and friends and probably different peers in the industry, but are they the right peers? Are they the right mentors? Are they the right coaches, or people that are going to have impact in your life and your agency's life that will both encourage you to be your best version possible? The best coaches, by the way, the best mentors, the best peers that I have in my life, they encourage me to see what's really possible. I see more in you than you see in yourself, right? I've had someone say that to me and I go, wow, what do you see? You're holding yourself back. But guess what? A great community, great peers, great coaches do as well. They'll also call you out when you're lying to yourself. They'll challenge you. That's not good enough. We all need that, right? We all need that. When I get the opportunity, again, I talk to agency leaders every single week, right? Sometimes, there's many of them, it depends on the week, but the bottom line is I get an opportunity to talk to a lot of agency leaders. And I always find it interesting, not so much surprising anymore, but interesting, that they'll be talking about a certain area of their business. I'm really struggling with this, and, I don't know. They almost feel embarrassed, right? A bit sheepish about it. And they'll say something like this, you probably don't hear this from anybody else. Like, you're the 4th agency leader that's mentioned it this week, right? This business, the agency leadership business, can be a very lonely business. You ever felt that way? Am I the only one thinking this? Am I the only one dealing with this? Am I crazy? Am I going nuts? So we need to have an established community, because I mentioned earlier, this idea of just going on your own and trial and error, it takes too long and it's a money suck, right? I mean, how much money are you investing? How much time are you investing in things that you keep beating your head against the wall? And so what we want to help and share with you is the idea of how do you begin to accelerate your results by learning from others who have been places you haven't been, had experiences maybe you haven't, share common concerns, share frustrations. One of my favorite examples of this, again, another Rough Notes agency that we work with, is the Diebold agency in Michigan. About a $5 million agency, great people. Our team has worked with them for many, many years. And as you can see here, even the title of this article, From a Little Help from a Friend. Well, we're proud to say that friend was us, but they've also had other friends, right? They're willing to say, I've got to learn from others. The best agency leaders always tell me this. What else should I know? Who else can I learn from? What am I missing? What else is out there, right? They're always curious about that. They want to be surrounded and supported by a community. A results base from this, just to give you an idea, is several years ago, this agency had a commitment to say we were going to grow to 5 million. They were about $2.5 million in revenue. So a nice agency. They wanted to get to 5 million in 5 years. They did it. Now, how do they do that? How do you go from 2.5 to 5 million in 5 years? That's pretty good growth, right? Is a big part of that is avoiding some of the trial and error, some of the mistakes they had to learn alone by learning from other agencies, by learning from mentors, by learning from coaches. Because the idea is this, you may have heard this phrase before, it's been around for a long time. If you want to go fast, go alone. I mean, if you want to go fast, just go alone. You'll go fast. The problem is, how long will you go? Right? I think about a 100-meter dash. We just had the Olympics. If you want to go fast, go alone, sprint for 100 yards. If you want to go far, go together. If you want to go far, find people that'll help support and uplift you along the way. So I got to share this for all of you, and just something to think about and ponder. Obviously, most of you probably know who this guy is, at least if you're a movie fan. This is Happy Gilmore. Well, that's a great movie, by the way. Over here, we have Dustin Johnson. They're both playing golf. Now, I would say this, as much as I love Happy Gilmore, and he did have some success in the movie, and it was very, very funny, I think it's safe to say that Happy is an amateur and Dustin's a professional, right? So I want to share something with you, because I talked about physical fitness. But when it comes to professional fitness, your agency's professional fitness, the health of your agency, what are the differences? Well, here's something to think about. An amateur thinks things are always good enough, whereas a professional is always learning. I just mentioned that. A professional is committed to never-ending growth. A professional is going to plan. They're going to have a strategic plan. An amateur is going to hope. And I've already mentioned the drug of hopium. A professional, Dustin over here, he's accountable to his results. An amateur, not so much, right? In fact, amateurs oftentimes I see with agencies will blame other people. It's the carrier's fault. It's his fault. It's her fault. They didn't do what they wanted. Professionals take absolute personal responsibility. It's not always fun, but the best professionals do that. Professionals are doers, amateurs are dabblers. I am going to do this to fruition. An amateur is, I'm going to play around for a while and see what happens. But there's a different level there. Here's something that's really important for all of you, I hope. Professionals are paid really, really well, right? High-level professionals that are skilled, that do things that no one else does, are paid very, very, very well. Amateurs are paid, right? Paid poorly. And the last thing is this, and I've already mentioned this to kind of summarize what I've discussed today, is professionals seek and execute to have full transformation, to become better. There's a certain area, there's a certain skill that I'm going to improve upon to continue to transform, to get better and better. Amateurs, they'll take some information and do something with it, right? If you think about the game of golf, you see behind me, professionals will continue to tweak and work and always look for that next level. Amateurs will say, yeah, I watched the video last night, I'll give it a shot tomorrow. That's more like me when it comes to the golf world. Just played last week, I had some rough shots, right? So where do you want to play? That's my question for you as an agency. Where will you be positioned? How do you want to be positioned? We're going to talk about being a professional. There are 3 areas that we see with professionals every single time. Now, I spent 15 years in insurance agency sales. I spent 3 years running my own company. I've now been with Sipkins for just coming on 4 years. And I sat with Roger when we first started working together. It was about 4 years ago. And we were having dinner. And I was thinking through in my mind, what are all the things that I've seen? Now, what are all the things that Roger can tell me? What are all the things I've learned from agencies and speaking that say, these are the things at the end of the day that separate average agencies. And I say that with love and respect, right? Because you can be semi-successful in this business and do okay, right? Thank God for this business. It's a great business, but versus the elite achievers. And it always comes down to these 3 things every single time. I see the agencies I work with. Number 1 is clarity. And here's something to write down. Clarity. What does clarity mean? Well, clarity, number 1 is, where am I today? Do I even know where I'm at today? Really? Where am I today? Where do I want to go? And how am I going to get there? Where am I today? Where do I really want to go? And how am I going to get there? What's my plan? In fact, there's probably one more to that. How did I get to where I got? Right? That might be another question to ask. But clarity is really understanding that. And I can tell you, it seems like a really easy, obvious question, but if I ask most agencies those questions, they go, well, you know, kind of, sort of, maybe like that. Whereas the best agencies say, here's exactly where we are. Here's exactly where I want this to go. And this is going to be our plan to get there. Now, doesn't mean their plan is perfect. No, but they've got one. Next is consistency. And this is the idea of, I just mentioned on trap number 2, but it's the vital few versus the trivial many. May want to write that down. Are you focused on the vital few or the trivial many? The vital few, these are the few things that we're committed to exceptionally well. The trivial many is whatever I feel like that week or day, whatever comes up. Consistency is your agency's way of doing business. You want to write that down. What is my agency's way of doing business today? Do I know what it is? Could I clearly say that to someone? This is our agency's way of doing business, and this is how we stay consistent. Again, consistency is not sexy. It doesn't seem like it's fun, but it's so, so powerful. And the last one is commitment. Are you committed, back to what I mentioned earlier, to being your best version, whatever that looks like to you? Are you committed to yourself, number one? The hardest person to lead, by the way, is that person you look in the mirror. I've been there. I'm there every day, right? This is my biggest challenge. But what about a commitment to your team members? What about a commitment to your clients? What is that commitment? What is that level? What do we owe our clients? What does that look like? It comes down to one word: commitment. Am I willing to be accountable, to do the things that I said I was going to do? And just for a second, think about this. If all the people on your team did all the things that they said they were going to do, how great would your agency be? So just think about that now. Like, oh, that's a dream world, Brent. But just think about it. If all the people in your agency did everything they said they were going to do, how great would your agency be? Because it really, really comes down to that. So we've designed, and some of you may have heard this before. For some of you, this is brand new. But I kept thinking as Sipkins, we've done this for so long. It had so many successful stories, but how do we take all these things that we learn, and certainly now in the virtual world, and create a process, create a program that every agency can access at a very easy level, at a way that's going to be tangible for agencies that are truly committed to growth. And I want to share with you our professional fitness experience, just so you know what it looks like. And there's three parts to this professional fitness experience. There's three segments. And technically, they're all 90 days. We look at these in 90-day quarters. We want to help agencies have a strategic process that they can embark on that does two things. All right. And it's going to sound like a big claim, but it's true. We want to help agencies make their success both predictable and guaranteed. How do we make agency success both predictable and guaranteed? Well, it starts in phase one. And this is a 90-day phase, which it says here is the foundation for all agency transformation. Just like you guys all know, if you're going to build a house, you got to start with the foundation. So what does that look like? Well, it starts with a transformational scorecard. And Bethany, if you could put on a link on here for all of you that are attending with me live right now, I want to go ahead and give you access to that so you can get started on this and take a look at yourself. But our transformational scorecard is a score sheet that you can go on. It's a link on our page. You can, I've got a video on there that I share and explain, all the different areas that we go through, and you score yourself, honestly. Right? And I explained how to do that, of what it actually looks like. And when you're done with your scorecard, or when you complete it, you hit submit, you're going to get an actual PDF form that's going to show if you're in the green zone, the yellow zone, or the red zone. Right? Just to give you an idea, where are we today? Just so I have some idea. So every one of you have access to that. You click the link, you can go in there and start working on that. And then once you're done, if you want to have future conversations about next steps, we'd love to have that with you. But the first part is the clarity. It starts with this transformational scorecard. Again, every one of you have access to that. Secondly, and this is huge, is the core. And through COVID and all of our learning, all the virtual programs that we started, is that we realized, hey, wait a second. In this virtual world, one of the key advantages is that we can give every agency and every agency member and every agency department access to our training programs. And so every quarter, we run programs for sales for our producers. We run programs for account managers, our service team. We run programs for sales leaders to help them keep their team accountable, learn sales meeting strategies. And we do programs for agency leaders, how to communicate your mission and your vision and put together that one-page business plan. So all of this is the first 90 days. It's just saying, let's get clarity and let's get the core foundation. And what's the reason for this? Because we want our agencies to understand and speak a common language and culture. We hear it all the time. One of the biggest benefits of this is that we understand each other better, right? We have greater buy-in. It makes sense of the things that we need to do together. So that is part number one, clarity and core. The second phase goes on to what I mentioned earlier. It's about focus. So what we want agencies to do is, after they go through the clarity and core and hear the message, understand the message in the first quarter, is then be able to get laser focused in one specific area. And you may think, well, geez, Brent, I got more than one area to work on. Remember what I said earlier? If you focus on more than one thing and the distractions come, you never get the transformation you want. So for 90 days, we would challenge your agency, and we're going to have a guided process. We do ongoing masterminds. We've got resources and tools to say, as an agency in phase 2, let's identify one particular area. Maybe it's high performance teams. Maybe it's pipeline development. Maybe it's a unique selling proposition. Maybe it's client retention. We're going to have a number of different deep dives available for agencies. You pick. What's the one area that you are going to commit to for 90 days to have laser focus, and give you a guided process through that. And then phase number 3 is ongoing, but it's network and mastery. This solidifies your commitment to mastery. We believe in ongoing mastery. So every month we run a monthly sales meeting for your entire team. I'm going to help you stay accountable. So we're going to run a monthly sales meeting for your team. We do ongoing leadership and service forums. So we hop on and we bring all of our network members together. We talk about some different leadership issues. We talk about service issues. And then every year we run a live in-person networking event, our ProFit Net, to bring our agencies together, to have collaboration, have a heck of a lot of fun, but continue that learning and sharing. So 3 phases. And just to summarize this, I'm just going to ask you this. What's the value of one great idea? Think about that for a second. I mean, you might have a few coming to mind, but what's the value of one great idea? Whether it's shared from me, whether it's shared from a peer, whether it's shared from someone else, there's extreme value. The question is, are you in the right room? See, I believe this. If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find a new room. I have examples growing up, right? I used to think, man, I'm a pretty good basketball player. Oh, look how good I am. And then I went and found a better room, and I'm like, wow, I got work to do, right? But it challenged us to get out of our comfort zone. So what's the value of one idea? What does that look like? And who are you surrounding yourself with? Because here's the bottom line. If you continue, whatever that is, whether you do something with Sipkins or you try to go out on your own, right? The bottom line is this: the same old thinking is going to get you the same old results. The same old thinking. If I'm not going to think differently, I'm going to get the same results. And here's something I definitely want you to write down, because this is important and it's powerful. And maybe if I can leave you with anything, it's going to be this. Your current business model is perfectly designed to get you the results that you're currently getting. Your current business model is perfectly designed to get you the results that you're currently getting. Think about that for a second. All right, whatever results that you have right now, good, bad, or ugly, that is a product of your current business model. Now, you may say, I love it. Good for you. You may say, I've got some improvement to make, right? Whatever that is. But the idea is this idea, the same old thinking is going to get you the same old results. And I will tell you, we have worked really hard in our passion and mission to working with insurance agencies across the country to put these puzzle pieces together. We keep talking as a team and collaborate. How do we make it easier for agencies to win? Like I said, guaranteed their results, make the results predictable, allow their entire team to hear the message, have a holistic process around that, and surround them with other community members and agency leaders who desire to be the best as well. Here's something to consider. And I'm probably going to make some of you mad at me, and that's okay. I hope not. I love to have friends, and I'm going to step off the screen for a second. But I'll tell you this. There are 36,000 independent insurance agencies in the country, okay? Now, this is a rough estimate. But from all the studies we look at and agencies we talk to and all of the research, I would say that about 80%, and we would say at Sipkins, 80% are in this category here. And the term that we use, with all love and respect, are quoters and floaters. Right? They're agencies that all kind of look the same, kind of talk the same. They quote and they float and they quote and they float and they move around. And guess what? Some of them do pretty well, right? This idea of semi-successful. And so if this is where your agency is, or you think it is, and you're happy with it, hey, listen, we'll still be friends. But I will tell you, the agencies that we desire to work with is this. We want that next 18% that are looking to escape the traps that are holding them back from their best version possible. That they're on a pretty good course, but there's a better course. We want to find some tweaks in their business model, tweaks in their mindset, tweaks in their skill development to help them escape the traps that are preventing them from being their best. Because ultimately, what we desire for agencies is to move this 18% that desire to be the top 2%, which is ultimate freedom. Now, this isn't always about agency revenue size either, right? This is about escaping to get to freedom. Because what is freedom? Well, there's a lot of different kinds of freedoms. There's financial freedom. That's a pretty good one, right? Financial freedom, do what I want, with who I want, when I want, how I want. What about relationship freedom? I'm working with the right clients who I want to work with, the right time, the right people. We have the right processes. right? We have freedom of time. I'm not strapped by the fact that I'm making a lot of money, but I have no time to enjoy it. Or maybe freedom of purpose. I love what I do every day. I get up and I make a difference. Whatever that is, to escape some of those traps to get to your ultimate freedom. Now, again, I'll just give a summary on this, but if you have questions and you want to have discussions with us, we're happy to do that. But I do want to introduce the ProFit experience in the Sipkins network and what it looks like. It says here it starts at $997 a month. It does go up by agency. If you're an agency, $3 million of revenue or less, it's $997 a month. That is for your entire agency. This is not by person. This is not by department. Your entire agency pays one fee. That's it. And has access to all of our programs and all of our resources and trainings that I mentioned. And again, if you got questions, and Bethany, you can put the link on there. You can go to sitkins.com/AIM and you can learn more about the program. And of course, sign up. Now, I will say this, our next programs all kick off. All these training programs that we have, I talked about Clarity and Core, these core programs. These programs kick off the second week of September, right in mid-September. So if you want to take part of this, we are getting pretty close on time to get all your team registered and signed up as we are here in mid-August. So again, as a summary, access to all training programs. We have ongoing monthly forums. We have one flat monthly price for your entire agency. We've added the 90-day deep dives that will be coming out to give you guys a specific area. And of course, ongoing networking and mastery. And one thing, again, we say this for everything. It's 100% guaranteed. If at any time you feel that what we're doing is not what we promised, what we said we were going to do, we would be happy to give your money back. It doesn't happen. But if it did, we would do that. We believe in what we do so much. We've done it for so long that you have our complete guarantee that you're going to get a specific return on your investment, because it does come down to this, right? And I'm not going to give you some big rah-rah sales pitch, but at the end of the day, you guys are all in sales to a different degree. What are two big reasons people don't buy anything? Lack of time or lack of money, or at least concern of time or concern of money. Now, our programs are all at this point set up virtually. We've got a lot of things that are going to be on demand and resources. We're not asking for a lot of your time or your team's time. In fact, when the programs run, they're about 2 hours a week. But when you factor in the entire 90 days, it's even less than that. Is your agency's development for your team worth an hour or two a week? I would hope it is. It's about 5% of your week, right? To get better at what you do. What about money? Well, here's what I would tell you. Again, I've already talked about a guarantee. We want a return on your investment, obviously. I've shared some compelling stories of agencies that have had success in this. Here's what I'll tell you. And this is something hopefully that will jump out to many of you. Maybe you've heard this before, but it's true. Every $100,000 of unrealized profit with the multiples out there today is $1.4 million in agency loss valuation. Every $100,000 in unrealized agency profit. We want to help you go get the freedom that you deserve, that you want. And how much money maybe have you invested in something, maybe technology that you haven't really used, or at least as much, or maybe an unperforming or underperforming employee? All right, what does that look like? So I would just challenge you to think about that. And as I said before, the last thing I'll leave you with is this. If you're not ready to fully dive into AIM or you want to check it out, we understand that. But I would ask you to do this. Start with the Transformational Scorecard. This is our gift to you to at least check out, to give you guys kind of that professional fit checkup of where you're at. And again, go to sitkins.com/scorecard to learn more about it. Do the score, see where you're at, and we can have a conversation to see how this will fit you and your agency moving forward. I just want to thank you all for spending the time. You've invested 1 hour of your day with me. I appreciate it. We appreciate it, Sipkins. Again, we're here to answer any questions that you may have, so you can reach out to us. Obviously, we're going to send you a follow-up email with these links and just our apply to you. Hey, do you want to really truly be your best version possible? Are you willing to avoid these 3 traps that I talked about? Are you willing to make the greatest investment that you can make, an investment in yourself and your team? So with that, thank you so much. Have a fantastic day, and we will talk again soon. All the best to you all. Thank you for being here.